Get ready, get ready, get ready. It's Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Cusseau and my co-host, Dr. Sinead Davis, who is not with us today. She is doing her motherly duties of taking her firstborn, Miss Darren Davis, to college. So whoop, whoop. To the Davis girls and the Davis family. So yes, it's back to school. There's so much we have to talk about. But sitting in my co-host seat today is no stranger to Let's Talk Business, and that is Dr. Shanae Simmons. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. What an honor to be able to sit in the shoes and attempt to be as informative as the Dr. Shanae Davis. But it is a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know, Dr. Davis may not be here present, but she will be watching the show, and she will definitely be looking for us to present some medical data, because this is the show where we will be all up in your medical business. And so to have you on today is just phenomenal. To our radio listening audience, you are no stranger to them. We had the opportunity of having you on our show. I think that was back in May for Mental Health Month. Mm-hmm. And just real quick, let me just remind our radio listening audience, and thanks to all of you who are joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, the live stream, on In Touch News. But Dr. Shanae, and that's what she likes to be referred to, are you ready for this? A licensed mental health counselor in Florida and the co-founder and owner of, check out that banner, Community Victory Family Services, Inc., a private group practice committed to providing superior mental health services in Tampa Bay. We need you today, Dr. Shanae. Dr. Shanae also offers clinical supervision to counselors in training. When Dr. Shanae is not counseling individuals and families, she uses her clinical training and experiences with vulnerable populations to train community stakeholders in trauma-informed service delivery. She is committed to educate, empower, and equip, helping professionals for total community wellness. Again, she delivers hope by engaging, equipping, and empowering. And we need you today, Dr. Shanae.
Yes.
That
you want me to say? Yeah. I was like, oh, yes. That was great. That was great.
That was your welcome.
These are again, it's a privilege. These are amazing times, and these are times that we have to rally together so that we can be well as a community. Absolutely.
You are absolutely right. And today, with this togetherness, we are in collaboration with our guest, our special guest. And I wanted to say she wasn't a guest. Her husband has been on our show, the Reverend Dr. Glenn Dames, senior pastor at Allen Temple African-American Episcopal Church. We are so excited. He's also a great go-to resource for us. But to have you, Mrs. Jennifer Taylor Dames, join us, and just so that our radio listening audience will know just a little bit about you, in case they don't. Our show is viewed globally, and that's the beautiful part about they may not catch us at the moment the show airs, but they certainly have the opportunity to catch us from all over the world. So to those that may not know, this Richmond, Virginia born individual was educated there in her school. She excelled academically. And then because of the support of her family, community, and church, she would go on to enter the University of Virginia, where dual degree, earning a master's in teaching and a Bachelor of Science in chemistry, with a specialization in biological chemistry. That's phenomenal. But that wasn't enough. Upon graduation, she began teaching middle school in Richmond, VA, and later moved to Jacksonville, Florida, to Brevard County, and now Hillsborough County, where she is the principal of the Doris Reddick Elementary School in Wild Mama, Florida. Welcome to the show, Dr.
Thank you so much. I am the proud principal of Reddick Elementary School, and I am so excited to share this moment with you guys on behalf of all 740 of our learners here. We welcomed yesterday. It's such a blessing for me to be here. I can't be with you guys too long because we're going to be dismissing in a little bit, and our jobs right now are to get them here, get them fed, and get them safely back home to their parents, and we intend to do just that. So thank you so much for having me with you today.
You are more than welcome. Actually, the pleasure is ours, and I hear you saying these keywords. 740 students, that's a lot of students.
That's a lot. Actually, we usually get a few more. We have a migrant population at Reddick Elementary School, and so about 100 more of our students will begin to join us October, November timeframe. So we definitely have a large student population, but we're excited to have each and every one of them here. We have amazing students and amazing staff. And again, I couldn't be more proud to serve as the principal here.
Oh my goodness. And our kudos to you. Exactly. So listen, we know that this is going to be a different school year. It is our prayer and our wish for all of the students and your staff to be safe and to stay safe and to make sure that they are protected, and not just physically. We have Dr. Shanae on today so that we can talk about protecting their mental health as well. Yes. So I am sure there's a lot going on. I don't have little ones in school, but I have grandkids in school now. They look cute going to school today or yesterday. And so we want you to know that we are praying with you, and we are pulling for a successful year.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All over. We have students returning to college. We have those that cover the spectrum. But I saw the picture. We showed the picture of the Doris Reddick Elementary School. That is quite the school. And the person that the school was named after, I don't know if you all even realize this, but there's so many parallels. And this is what I saw really, really quickly. We have supported her. We've been there to support her success. We love her because of what she did, but her start began with education, just like yours, that start because of her love of students and making sure that the underserved was educated to the best of their abilities using her God-given talents and abilities. And then from there, she started in that Plant City area. I think they call the schools the Strawberry Schools. And she had a best friend named Altamise Simmons, Dr. Shanae Simmons. And the school was Simmons Elementary. You got to go and research that and see where there's a correlation there, or connection or relationship. But I was like, look at God putting all of us together for such a time as this. And so to you, Dr. Dames, you started out on that same educational path, your love to teach the science and the STEM to our Black kids and all kids, but specifically that area where we know they were suffering. So
and it is such a compliment to in any way, shape, or form be compared to Miss Doris Reddick. I'll tell you that within the first week of my appointment, I had the pleasure of welcoming her here on our campus, and we celebrated her 94th birthday. The students were all adorned in pink, and they couldn't be more happy for to welcome her to her own campus here at Reddick Elementary School. So definitely I see that as a compliment, and I can't say enough about the entire Reddick family and the foundation and the things that they are doing in this community. It is just fantastic. The way that they support this school is just phenomenal, and I'm so grateful and appreciative.
And they know this. And here's a beautiful part about why creating our legacies, what you're doing with the students, what Dr. Shanae is doing with the community center. When you look at people like Doris Ross Reddick, it actually started even before her. Her mother was an educator. And so her mother had a school named after her, Clemmy James and Clemmy Ross James. And we've got that elementary school in East Tampa. And then when I was also, because I know she has co-authored books twice, one with her best friend, as I mentioned, Altamise Simmons, and then as well with her daughter, Clemmy Perry. And what moved my heart last year was to know that even with with Clemmy and her foundation, the Color of Golf, Women in Golf, and you guys are starting one of the first programs at the Doris Reddick Elementary School. I just think that is phenomenal.
Yes, it is phenomenal. We're excited about that. We are going to have anywhere from 6 to 10 of our young ladies who are going to learn the game of golf, and they are so excited about that opportunity. And again, from Miss Perry, her entire family, I just cannot say enough. And I cannot speak enough about how grateful I am to have that support and how excited we are to give that opportunity to our learners.
Amazing. And that's why I wanted you to know there was such a correlation with all of you on the show today. And so, it's a great legacy. And God bless you for being able to lead the students and the staff at that particular school. So here we are. This is what, day 2. So you got through day 1. And what, being in your environment, and so how did it go? Because you're part of the Hillsborough County school system.
Yes.
And so we know what the mask mandates are. And so how did it work out for you day 1?
So it worked out just fine. The superintendent informed us that the Hillsborough County will be going to a mask mandate, and the students have the opportunity to wear the mask mandate, or parents have the opportunity to opt out. Our learners definitely respected the things that we asked them to do. We've had no issues, no problems here with whatever the parent's choice is. We know that we're professionals and we're doing everything that we can to keep our students safe.
I love that. Very well said. And so we have an expert on the show today as we talk about, because we're thinking about it's the first day of school. I know my little grandbabies were all excited about. We've got those going to college and those going to, I've got one starting kindergarten. So that is just so exciting. They don't even get to understand so much of what's going on in their environment. And here we are over a year later, and the numbers in the state of Florida are just skyrocketing. But yet you get to welcome them and love them and bring them into this school where their parents have to rely on you for protection. How are you keeping it together? How is your staff keeping it together? And then we want Dr. Shanae to come on and give you some advice.
Yes, Dr. Shanae, I'll take all the advice that you have to offer. I just feel like, to be honest with you, I was appointed here to lead, and that's exactly what I intend to do, whether we are in a pandemic or not in a pandemic. So I'm here to lead, to protect, to inspire. My staff is second to none. They have just wrapped their arms around our students and their families. We've adopted practices in social and emotional learning well before the pandemic started, so that we could provide that wraparound support to our students and our families. And we're just continuing to do that. We know that it is best for us to be together and to gather. It's just that we need to be able to do it safely. Because the school has always just provided that safety net for our students. We clothe them, we feed them, we love them, we teach them, and we want to be able to do that. And to continue to do that, what we have to do is to just make sure that we move forward and do that as safely as possible. And yes, while we have to worry about what we're teaching them, because we want our school to excel. Currently, our school is a C school, and we have goals to be a B and beyond. We still want to make sure that we're meeting their emotional needs as well. We know that the pandemic has taken a toll on families. It's taken a toll on families financially, emotionally, and we just want to be that beacon of light, that support for our students and their families, and to just really stand beside them to help them navigate sometimes what can be treacherous waters associated with this pandemic.
All right, well then we've got Dr. Shanae right here. So what questions would you like to present to Dr. Shanae? And we'll just let the two of you have a conversation.
Well, I guess, Dr. Shanae, from, our perspective as, adults who are in charge of taking care of students, and my students are pre-K through 5th grade. So I have younger learners. What things can we do to support our students emotionally so that we meet whatever needs, things they may be lacking during this time. I think she may be on mute.
Dr. Shanae, are you muted? Unmute, please.
Sorry, there we go.
Okay.
Great question. Great question. First, I want to say I'm so excited. This is completely a full circle in ways that I didn't realize it. I literally just connected to Women of Color Golf. And I literally was just listening to Clemmy talk about the initiative with the school. So I just got excited for a moment, like, amazing organization. And I look forward to being able to do more. But to the point of the question that you've asked, I think one of the things that's really important to understand, especially for our young learners, is that they take their cues from the environment. I tell parents and my clinicians all the time that children are the best behavioral scientists you will ever meet. They think about it. You knew when to ask mom for a snack. You knew when to ask mom to go outside. You knew if it wasn't a good idea to talk to dad. Like, they study their parents. They study the adults who steward their worlds. So one of the best things you can do is to ensure that the people who are stewarding their world are regulated, making sure their needs are met, making sure they feel safe, making sure they feel heard, making sure they feel empowered, parents included. And in a time where it really just feels so divisive, this is such a spirit of division, I think creating an intentional collaborative spirit, an intentional community where it's okay to have a different opinion as long as it's respectful and it's not impeding on the choices of others, where that kind of environment is created, then it creates safety for everyone to speak, right? And so that's at the adult level. At the level of the children, I think it's so important to give them language, emotional language. I will send a wheel that I literally post in the wall, on my walls. I have my clients put them in their journals. I teach my young children, I give them to my young clients. And it's literally a wheel full of feelings. And what we talk about is that feelings are 100% normal. They're all okay. There's no such thing as good or bad. What's good or bad is what we do with the feelings, right? There's some things that we do that are not so helpful, and there are other things that we do that, feel pretty good. And so normalizing any feelings and giving them the language to express themselves correctly and accurately, because a lot of times we just don't have the language. And when you give them that language, then you can respond appropriately. You respond to a child that feels rejected differently than you respond to a child who's disappointed, or then a child who's afraid, or a child who is shy, right? You respond to those children different. So when they understand the difference between those emotions and they communicate in that way, that helps them get their needs met more appropriately. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. I love that you talked about the self-care of the adults. It definitely is a goal of mine to make sure that I'm giving that to my staff. We do spend a lot of time in thinking about how we reward our students, how we take care of our students. But I know that it is so very important as leaders for us to also take care of the adults who are working with us and serving with us, because you're right. If I don't have teachers who are cognizant of their own mental health, or if I'm not supporting and meeting their needs, then they're not going to be able to do that for our students. So I appreciate that. And, I'm going to explore some of those additional strategies, that go beyond food, because we just don't want to always, use food as our go-to, but, just actual opportunities to really, work on mindfulness, reflection, just time to support them through this journey. It's difficult being a teacher anyway. I just feel like, our teachers are just phenomenal. They give so much anyway, and then add on that additional layer of stress that we're under, with the pandemic. And if we're not careful, it can be so very overwhelming.
Mhm.
So definitely, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to definitely put that here and let that turn into some action so that I really do my part as a leader to take care of my staff.
Awesome, awesome. And not forget that oftentimes the staff are parents too. Their children are just probably going to other schools, and sometimes they're going to the same school, but if they're going to other schools and they don't have you as that school doesn't have you as the leader, the parents not sure what that experience is going to be for their children.
Mm-hmm.
And this has just been a very, very unique time where some of the nation's most important caretakers are strained in ways that they hadn't been strained before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Well, listen, I'm sitting here listening to the two of you, and it's great to have Dr. Shanae on, and Dr. Shanae as a resource if parents are asking, or let me back up for just a second, Dr. Dames, if students are having a difficult time. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was in school, we had a student nurse. Mm-hmm. We had the office on the side, the clinic on the side of the principal's office. Mm-hmm. And if you just wanted a break, you had a good enough excuse, you could get in there. How do you, yours are little, so how do you help your little scholars if they just
So I'm glad you asked that. So we're blessed here at Reddick to have an amazing student services team. So we have a social worker here, we have a school psychologist, we have 2 guidance counselors, and we also have myself and our phenomenal assistant principal, Ms. Hicks. And so we just really position ourselves as like those trusted adults that our students can always go to. So if we have, and additionally at our school, we also have migrant advocates who help to connect some of our migrant families with some of the very things that you're speaking of. So when we have students that need help, they have us to come to, and we can help them as well as their families and connect them to resources. But what's nice also that the state has made some investments into getting us trained in youth mental health. So in addition to the students coming to us when they need help, as trained professionals, we are expected to look for and recognize when students are in distress and when they need support, even if they don't ask for it. So we still provide that support for them, whether they come to us to ask for it or whether we just notice it because of our training, and then we connect them with what they need to feel supported and to be able to get through whatever it is that they're dealing with.
Those are phenomenal resources, and that's going to make my Dr. Shanae Davis very, very happy, because that was one of her biggest concerns, is to identify what those resources were that were on campus with the students while they're there.
Yes.
It's after school and weekends that they can reach out, perhaps weekends that they can reach out to our Shanae Simmons. Yes. So I'm so glad to hear that we have those resources there, because those were things that she was concerned about, because your kids fall under that age group of being able to be vaccinated. And so therefore the care and the safety and the concern becomes very, very important. And I know you're going to have to leave, but as I hear you talk about, you did a lot of first Black female, first Black to do what you're doing, to be in the role and the position that you're in. But your counterpart in that of Mrs. Doris Ross Reddick, she also became a lot of first Blacks. But what's near and dear, and both of you can attest to this, especially you, Dr. Shanae Simmons, because you are an entrepreneur, you own your own business. August is the beginning of our school year. It's also National Black Business Month. And as a businesswoman, we can thank, wholeheartedly, Dr. Doris Ross Reddick, because in that position of being the first Black female on the Hillsborough County School Board, and she became the voice to make sure that minority businesses were receiving not a small part. When she looked at the data and saw that the school board was only spending $1,000 for minority businesses, in 1 year, she changed that to over $1 million.
Yes,
and we will forever
Right.
forever be grateful to her.
I don't know if
using
people
her
know
voice.
that
And that's
fact. Yes, I don't know if people know that fact about Miss Reddick, but she is single-handedly responsible for expanding opportunities for minority vending
absolutely.
with the school district. So that's definitely something to be celebrated and to recognize. And our students, if they didn't know her history before, they are going to know her history now. One of the things that we did when she visited our school is that we presented her with a proclamation where we have we named her birthday Doris Ross Reddick Day at Reddick Elementary School. Each year we intend to commemorate it. We are going to do that this year. We already have it on our calendar, where in addition to our students wearing her favorite color, we're going to engage in acts of service, to continue to celebrate the things that she has done for our community, because we're so excited and so proud to have a school named after such a phenomenal woman.
And that is phenomenal. She is a phenomenal woman. And Dr. Shanae, you can attest to this. So Dr. Dames, listen, I'm hoping when I get over there to that school, I'm going to be looking for Dr. Ross Reddick's book in your library.
It's on my bookshelf, I promise you. I think she signed my copy. So I absolutely do have it.
Oh my goodness. And we got to honor her as well with
do.
our group, BWBOEE, and we did a whole special for her and certainly pushed her book. So I thank you. Any final thoughts before you?
Well, I just want you right now, we are under, we can't have outside visitors as one of the superintendent's, recommendations to all of us to keep our campuses safe. But hopefully in the near future, when we're able to have visitors and volunteers again, I would love for the two of you guys to come on out to our school. We would love to show you all the wonderful things that our learners are doing, how they're thriving and growing here. And, anytime we can partner with you and connect with you, we're more than happy to do that. We're just going to continue to push forward and, make the best out of what is a difficult situation, do it with grace. Do it as safely as possible, because we are shooting for closing the gaps in achievement for our students, and we know we're going to get that this year in spite of the challenges that we face ahead.
Oh, just listening to you talk about the closing of the gap, I still go back to Doris Ross Reddick in her first book. It's always been about bridging the gap and helping that technical digital divide. And I thank you. I appreciate that. I'm certain on behalf of Dr. Shanae Davis, Dr. Shanae Simmons. When that door is open, we welcome the opportunity to come and share with your kids. We want to be a resource to you as well.
Thank you.
Have an amazing
Thank
day.
you all for having us. I do have to run, but thank you for having me.
Have an amazing school year.
All right.
Have a great one.
So as she signs off, it's just phenomenal, Dr. Shanae, that we get to, and I told you, just having all of us here together, we can see the parallels between educators and those of you and us, all of us, who are recognizing that we all have a voice, but we're using our time and our resources to give back and to support our community, which leads us to, and I'll wait and get into that on the second hour of the show. But Dr. Davis definitely wanted us to make sure that for our students who are age 12 and older, we have the Pfizer vaccine for them. For those that are 18 and over, we have both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. And what we're going to talk about as a segue to a show coming up, we spoke with Commissioner Gwen Myers, who now, with her push, she was instrumental in having a vaccination workshop, if you will, at my church, New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, where she had the Buccaneers to bring in the Lombardi Super Bowl trophy. Again, just encouraging parents to have their kids come out and get vaccinated. They didn't even have to register, and they got to take a selfie. So she is going to come back on later this month. Hillsborough County has opened up 2 more sites, and we will list those in our thank you post. But on that medical side, we've been talking about the pandemic since it started back in February of 2020. And here we are still talking about it's real. It's real. Dr. Shanae, it's real.
It is real. It is real. As a COVID survivor, I mean, I had COVID, so I know exactly how real it is. Actually, a year ago, was this a year ago today, maybe, or
Oh my
yesterday, is when
goodness.
I came off of quarantine for the first time. So I do know it's real. I think, I alluded to this
Well, listen,
earlier.
Dr. Sinead, we need to hear the whole story because when you
Okay.
were a guest on the show, we did not get that. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead. We're going to break for commercial and then we
Yes.
will come back about your COVID experience.
Yeah.
Back in a moment.
Will do.
You can, let's see, let's turn off our video.
Catch my show that will be all up in your business. Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Cuso. Every Wednesday at 12:31 p.m. My business experts provide insight for business entities and entrepreneurs. So join us every Wednesday from 12:31 p.m. to 1:31 p.m. at www.intouchnews.com. Catch my show.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. Diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here for you.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
And we are back. Thank you so much to our Facebook listening family, our social media platform outlets, our YouTubers for joining in to the show, and for those who will catch the show later. We are here. It's the show where we will be all up in your medical business. It's the beginning of a new school year. So thankful to Dr. Jennifer Dames for coming on the show. And I am certain that Dr. Davis would be so pleased because one of the things she wanted to make sure we were able to cover, and Dr. Dames did it so eloquently, and that's explaining to us the resources that are available on the elementary campus. Dr. Sinead, I was impressed with that. A full team?
Yes, absolutely. I think that what she was referencing is the youth mental health first aid training, and a number of our locales have invested in getting their staff and trained in it. And it's an amazing tool to help be a somewhat of a first responder in the areas of mental health and help link those students to the appropriate resources early on. Prevention is key. I think it's an amazing first step in being preventative in nature. See, in our country, we struggle with prevention sometimes, but I think that was a great initiative to demonstrate the value of preventative work.
And so you were sharing just on the other side of the show. I mean, I've had family members who were diagnosed with COVID. We've lost family members and friends as a result of the COVID-19 as we try to get through that pandemic year. And we were hoping to use terms like post-pandemic, but right now there's nothing post about this pandemic. And so in your practice, so there you were, now you're a medical profession, you're having to make adjustments as you begin to see your patients in restructuring, I'm guessing going more to a teleconference type of a business. So walk us through some of what you went through.
Absolutely. So when COVID first presented itself as a problem, right? Because we knew about COVID for some time before Americans decided it was going to be their business to attend to. Okay. That's a whole different show.
It is.
American Pride. But when COVID began to present itself, and in my field, I technically am a first responder, not a medical one, but a mental health one. I am a
Oh,
healthcare first responder. And so we never closed our doors. We began to, initially, we started with increasing sanitation and people staying in their cars and reducing the amount of items in our waiting rooms that could be touched and can be, could transmit. That's what it initially started to be. But then when we had that immediate, that complete shutdown, it was 100% telehealth. I might have had maybe one or two individuals who just weren't comfortable with the technology, and so of course we ensured we had all of the necessary precautions and protocols in place. But for the most part, most people were completely open to transitioning to
okay.
telehealth. My exposure wasn't through my work. my exposure was in my faith community, and I happened to
Yes.
exchange space with someone who was a healthcare provider on the front line. And it resulted in myself and quite a few other people also testing positive. My husband being a minister, and they call for the elders of the church, right? When you don't feel good, that's where people
Amen,
go.
sister.
So, I mean, it just kind of came with the territory. We did make adjustments in the church to, be more responsible and more responsive. And as you probably are aware, there has been a great deal of tug of war in this space between government and church management and government regulations, so forth and so on. I will say that I did not have complications. My husband did not have complications. Very few of the people that I knew personally had complications. I lost taste and smell, and I was a little nervous at one point because I'm like, wait, what happened, and I had my granddaughter with us.
Mm.
She was in town from Virginia, so much of my concern was centered around her parents. Again, this is a year ago, so we were at the height of the anxiety, and her parents, were they freaking out about what was going to happen? And then she was sad because she was quarantined in a room by herself because we tested positive. My son hadn't got his results yet, and she, and so she was just felt like she was being punished, and it was just horrible from the socialization and the social emotional aspect of it. God, glory to God. We came out of it unscathed. We sent her home unscathed. No one else in our home tested positive. We could make light of it to some degree in terms of the family dynamics, pushing your plate to the door and, just those kinds of things. But in the midst of it, it was definitely not a pleasant experience to be in a room for 10 days. I was gratefully not alone. However, I was able to reflect on the isolative aspect of someone who could potentially be in a room by themselves for 10 or more days because of the symptomology. So it was quite informative in that for me. But I will say this, and I say it proudly: cancer prepared me for COVID on so many levels.
My
The way
goodness.
that people responded was like you had a scarlet letter. People's suspicions about what you did and what you didn't do. I think now we've turned the curve of that a little bit now. But at that time, we were only a few months in, and it was just a very challenging experience. And so being that I am a cancer survivor, and some of those experiences I had already encountered, I felt pretty equipped to navigate it. I walk by faith. Everything I do is by faith. And so I had to rely on that in the process. And I never stopped working. This, just like with cancer, I never stopped. I took a couple of weeks off for surgery, but for 6 months of treatment or so. I worked the whole time. So I just knew what was necessary for me, right? My story is different than many others. And I think at the end of the day, what I say is most important is that you do what's necessary for you to be well, for you to stay well, and for you to get well. And that doesn't need to be justified. You don't have to defend it. You just need to do it because no one else can make you well. No one else can protect you and keep you well. And I think when we're the state in our country where we feel like we owe people explanations, and we just don't. We just don't owe anyone an explanation for what we're choosing to do. So we feel good and we feel well and we feel protected. And that's a very intentional statement that I'm making along this topic because it has been incredibly divisive, but we don't get anywhere that way.
We don't.
And so I just want to encourage people, do what you feel that you need to do to be well. And you don't owe anybody an explanation about that. You don't owe anybody an answer about what you're choosing to do, as long as you're respectful of what they're choosing to do for themselves. And when we can learn how to exist in community that way, we'll be well on a whole nother level. And that's my hope, is that we can engage with one another with differences of opinion, but respectfully, right? And honoring the fact that no one gets to decide how someone else is to be well.
Yeah.
We can encourage each other, right? We can encourage each other. We can share information. But I think that it has felt like a sense of bullying has come out that is just so unhealthy, well intended, but unhealthy. And I think we need to reevaluate that so that people feel empowered to do what's necessary for themselves. And that bullying exists on both sides of the coin.
It does.
So I'll take the room out for any confusion about what I'm saying. I speak intentionally, so you can't even tell what my position is because it's not important. What is important is that you are doing what's necessary for you to be well, but to exist in community respectfully and be mindful that we're not engaging in intimidating practices,
Yes.
because that is not healthy.
Dr. Shanae, you are amazing. Just in the 30 minutes that we've been on this show, you've got your famous tagline, you're a woman of faith, and you walk by it. To share your testimony from before, and as we listened and learned from you and how God has used you to be this incredible woman, helping ordinary folk understand life happens. You've gone through cancer, you've had COVID, you're sharing those experiences with us, but to hear you share your testimony is riveting. It's powerful. It's inspiring. I thought I was having a terrible day or had a terrible night, but now I can take a deep breath in just listening to you. I understand why it's so easy for individuals to spend time with you. The way that you're able to use your dialogue is, sometimes you say you're not the medical first respondent, but you are as essential as they come. And to hear Dr. Dames welcome your expertise and your services. You're back on the show to engage us. By using this platform, you have empowered us, me in particular. And how do you empower people? You equip them with the tools and the skill set and the resources to be able to do just that. So let me ask you, for those who are listening and may be listening later, how do they reach you, Dr. Shanae, whether it's at Community Victory Family Services, or if they just want to have a conversation with Dr. Shanae?
Very easily. www.communityvictory.com. That's how you find us. We really believe that. We really believe that the community can be victorious, and everything that we do individually, collectively, privately, and publicly is for that. And so the easiest way is to go to the website. If you want to send me an email, it's Dr. Dr. Simmons at communityvictory.com. We really don't want to make it difficult for people to find us.
Yes.
We have a Facebook page, Community Victory, Community Victory Family Services. But if you're typing in the address, it's www.facebook.com/community victory. Like, we really want you to get that in your spirit. That is how you find us. And any one of us will be happy to support however we can. We stand by the things that we say, and we do believe that the community can be well.
Awesome. Well, you're sitting in Dr. Shanae Davis's seat. And so one of the things she wanted us to do, and we just talked about how you equipped individuals, would you then like to share with our radio listening audience how they can be equipped in using some of the resources? One of the things that she wanted us to do was also, as we're talking about COVID-19, now that the school year is open, people are returning back to school, staff, people are returning back to work, some before the August, and what should parents kind of look for when they're looking for quarantine protocol? And is that something you'd like to cover for Dr. Davis?
Well, I think what you're asking, and maybe you can clarify, are you asking what should parents be looking for to ensure their children are going to be safe when they return to school? Or are you asking something different?
No. One of the things was just that when she was providing some of the data for us, for instance, students, if they are on the campus in our worksheet, in our protocol worksheet, that she shared with us. But one of the things that she wanted us to pay attention to was those students who are returning back to school, and what happens if they've been exposed to COVID-19. Well, day 8 after that exposure, and they are to remain asymptomatic, and there's some things that they need to do. Students can go and take the COVID diagnostic test on day 5 after being exposed. They can return back to the school. If they are asymptomatic and provide proof that their test results are negative, then they can return to school. But not just for the students, we have to also think about the teachers who are returning to school. And so part of that, and part of what she likes to share with us, is resources and understanding what those protocols are. So what we will do then is provide the resource links so that our parents and our radio listening audience will know what happens if those students are now tested positive with COVID-19, and what do they need to do, and what's the time criteria allowed for that. The same thing with employers returning back to work. When they have been exposed to COVID-19, what must they do? Days become very, very important. With the students, it's 5 to 8. When it comes to our employers, it's you can return back to work after day 11, but check with your employer to find out, what their rules and regulations and protocols are for returning back to the workforce. But these are resources that have been provided to us. We will make them available to our viewership as well, but they become very, very important. And then there's the part about, we get to now talk about, you actually shared a little bit about the isolation when you had to self-quarantine together, your granddaughter, but anyway, in that household for 10 plus days. Well, here we are at it again. So when we start looking at the pandemic effects on mental health, you shared a little bit about that isolation and the effects that's happening with that, what some of the solutions should be when that happens. One of the things she wanted us to do was start, Googling what are some hobbies. I've heard a lot of people talk about, and me too, had to go back to a lot of that cooking because you couldn't go out to eat. Mm-hmm. You had to dust off that cookware and turn on those stoves and ovens. And
Yes.
actually, I enjoyed it. I mean, there were some things I had not cooked or baked. I love to bake in years, but because I had more time, I could take my time, and I was decorating cakes and just doing things that I love
That's right.
to do. And so, but you, what in your quarantine, you're in your home. What were some of the things you did to keep yourself sane and
Oh
busy?
my, absolutely. So we walked every day, and we our children would fuss like, "What are you doing outside?" Like we were responsible, but we didn't walk around people, but we did need fresh air. So
Yes.
we walked every day. We went out our back lanai porch door so we didn't cross the children and contaminate them. But we did walk every day. And believe it or not, bikes became very challenging to get. People started biking, roller
Yes.
skating. People started roller skating. My own daughter is roller skating now more than ever, at 21.
But wait, were you masked while you were outside?
hmm hmm
Okay.
hmm hmm Um, but indoors, we did. We recycled things. We dug out things. We reorganized things. I
Yes.
think I worked on a book project at the time. We did puzzles, which became very hard to find. We did diamond dots. We had family time, and that I think ultimately is the thing that's important. There's so many things that we used to do in this country that we don't do because we're on autopilot, that it's not that we have a shortage of things to do. It's just that we have to pause, reflect, and pull them back out. I saw hopscotch outside when we would walk. People would, at one point, it was really neat. There were messages, and you could tell like the
Yes.
families had worked together. And
All
as you
over the
would walk,
world.
you would see messages in chalk around the community. There were drive-by birthday parties and drive-by retirement parties and drive-by um, graduation parties because people missed out on their graduations. So we
Yes.
are, and I might have said this before, I don't know if I did, but I usually say it when I have the opportunity. We are a resilient people and
Yes.
we are a creative people. When that's how we eat, we got to eat some of these old traditional, I'm not even going to throw them out there. You know what I'm saying? Is because when we were tossed things that nobody else wanted, we figured out what to do.
Absolutely.
All we have to do is dust those skills off. There's no shortage for us to figure out what to do. We just have to have a desire and a remembrance that we're capable, and then a determination to do. So tons of us have plans that we parked or filed, dig them out,
Take them
dust
out.
them off, blow them off, you polish off your stuff, and get back in touch with who you really want to be and not who you became on autopilot.
Yes. And I appreciate the fact that you're breaking that down for us, because if there was nothing else that I learned as a result of the pandemic, first it was difficult losing loved ones, and then to find out some things that we just didn't have the time to do anymore. Our lives should not have gotten so busy that we forgot to do some of the very things that we love to do, or as a family we were drawn to do or practice doing.
Mhm.
It was a reminder to us of what was most important to
Yes.
us. I've
Yes.
always been a person that loved to write letters and to send
Yes.
cards. And I found myself now purchasing an art kit and
Yes.
drawing a little bit and making the letters a little special and writing to
Yes.
my little friends and my senior members. And somebody said, "What? You sent a letter?" Or somebody else called and said, "Girl, you sent me a letter. You have no idea how that made me feel today." It's
Absolutely.
just the little small things that,
Mhm.
like you said, when we were on autopilot, we just didn't have the time to do. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you, true confession. I said to myself when Uber first came out, or any of those Instacart type of services, and I thought, why would anybody want to do that? Get in the car and go to the store. I'm always the one to try to take the extra step or walk a little further. And then one day it happened. And so, because as the world was moving, I didn't move along with them. It took my daughter, who was in North Dakota, to order groceries for us because we couldn't leave. And they were delivered on my doorstep. just thought that was the funniest thing. Knew the services were out there, knew it could be done. And then I realized, wow, so glad that those things happened before the pandemic, because it began to provide a lot of comfort. And then we realized, wait, we can do this for other people, church members, seniors, and just found the best use of the resources that were made available to us. And that was just fantastic. And so some things that we need to look at, you've kind of helped us with that whole mental health aspect as we are going through the pre, the post, and then now still going through. You're either in a storm, on your way out of a storm, or going back into one, 3 phases of a storm. But we urge people to still take the vaccine, get the vaccine. We'll provide the resources for you at the end of the show. As I stated during the show, it's National Black Business Month. We always like to shout out our Black businesses. We do it every show. And so just to be able to have you on the show today, that's great. And when you joined us back in May, it was Dr. Kinsler of Kinsler Psychology. So a shout out to her. But we will list those businesses, and we'll continue to shout them out. Those resources for maybe you're still on the fence. I saw a family whose daughter was turning 12, and they had planned for her to get her COVID vaccine on her 12th birthday, and then she would be able to go back to school fully vaccinated, and ended up, I think it was Today's Show that she was on, but she ended up being diagnosed with COVID and ended up in the hospital, and the birthday wasn't the way she had planned it. But this little 12-year-old said to the community, to the world, please get vaccinated. We're providing the resources. Commissioner Gwen Myers said she doesn't want it heard that Black and brown people couldn't get the information in a timely manner, couldn't find the locations, and she has those sites. Multiple sites have already opened up. So she'll be joining us to talk to us about that. We will shout out those Black businesses in our thank you posts and on each of our shows coming forward. But let me take this opportunity to thank you for sharing the co-host seat with me today. You have just done an incredible job of, again, your words engaging, equipping, and empowering us. And we look forward, Dr. Shanae, in having you come back on to join the show. But as we get ready to close, please give us final thoughts, and then we will wrap this show on back to school and your mental health up.
Well, thanks again. This is always a pleasure and an honor. I don't count it lightly when I have the opportunity to join an initiative like this. I guess my final words would be that it doesn't help us to walk in fear. And I would encourage that people get tested, right? Because I think some of the challenges that we've encountered and some of the things that made this even more complicated was that people just didn't want to get tested. It's like, oh, I don't want to know, but you actually make the situation worse. And when I was listening to and looking at the protocol, and I was talking about after exposure, we'll convince ourselves we weren't exposed. Like, you need to be tested to make sure that you are, that you are or not. And then the protocols actually can be your guide. But until you're walking, in blindness. And parents who may have been financially impacted and really need to get back to work may fear doing so. But you need to. We do not send your children to school without being 100% sure that they are not positive. You know how it used to be. Oh, he just has a runny nose, and let him go to school, and then you get called. And so there are so many people's lives that are connected. Let's be responsible and be respectful. And if there's anything out of sorts, get tested. And then from there, make your plan. But please don't send these children to school without proper care.
Proper care and proper protection.
Yes.
Get tested, get vaccinated, vaccinated. Thank you to our radio listening audience. Please like and share the post so that we can all respect each other. It is our prayer that you stay safe, you stay well. Until next time, Dr. Shanae, my In Touch News family, this show is wrapping up. It's a wrap. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome.
Recording.